fun fact, the federal prevailing wage, the Davis-Bacon Act, was a Republican-led initiative because at the yeah, exactly.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Joey Andrews is the Democratic state representative for Michigan's 38th district. He is also a former policy analyst for the Michigan AFL. Joey, thanks for taking the time to talk to us this morning. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Prevailing wage. Let's talk about that. We actually had on somebody from the Illinois Economic Policy Institute talk about a few months ago, talk about the effects of prevailing wage repeals over the last 5 years or so.
So really what happened between 2015 and 2018, 6 states decided to repeal their state prevailing wage laws, or to say, you know what, we're not going to mandate that contractors bidding on public works pay their workers this kind of, wage that helps to stabilize these local markets. Those who were in favor of the repeal, governors and state legislators, kind of made a promise to taxpayers that cutting out these middle class wages and benefits to construction workers would save them money on construction projects. And sure, the logic seems, somewhat obvious enough. You don't pay workers as much, you don't have as much of your tax dollars being used for these projects, and perhaps you can have more projects. So we decided to test that and to kind of do one of the first studies to really look at all of the states that repealed these laws and compare them to the 28 states, including the District of Columbia, who has maintained their prevailing wage laws. So we wanted to see, okay, there's this promise that it's going to save money. What actually happened? So, kind of broadly what happened is there were negative impacts for the workers, for the employers, and for the community. So construction worker earnings and productivity fell behind states that maintained their prevailing wage laws. On-the-job fatalities increased, and reliance on government assistance programs increased, which essentially means, taxpayers are, now kind of shifting where their dollars are going instead of, right in the pockets of workers through the wages and kind of into these government assistance programs. It slowed down employment growth, and fewer projects were completed by local contractors.
And, as you can imagine, it wasn't exactly as the defenders of the repeals described. And so talk to us about prevailing wage, what it means, and what it means now that it's going to be reinstated in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, so essentially prevailing wage is a rule that requires any projects that use state dollars or federal dollars, in the case of federal prevailing wage, to pay a standard wage to anybody working on the project. Effectively, it levels the playing field for both union and non-union contractors, because it takes wage setting out of the bidding process. As you noted,
hold on, Joey. Now, anti-union people tell me that prevailing wage means non-union contractors can't even apply for these bids. That's what I hear.
It does in practice mean a lot of them don't apply for the bids, because most of them can't make a profit unless they're paying their workers, substandard wages.
Oh, but the government's not coming in and telling them, oh, you can't bid for this contract if you're not a union contractor?
Nope, that's not in there.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And interesting, I believe there was a state senator, a Republican from Indiana, that commented that the repeal of the prevailing wage law had, in fact, in practice, not done anything to improve costs of bids, and said that his words, that it was a mistake. And I think that's generally what you see in the data everywhere, that without prevailing wage, the job costs don't go down. All that happens is workers get paid less and the contractor gets paid more. They just shift around where the profit and where the money lands in the bid. But when you bring on low-paid workers who aren't professionals in their field, you end up with a lower quality of work, which over time actually increases the amount of money that the state is spending on these projects.
Right.
The data is pretty clear. Prevailing wage states, projects actually end up saving money over non-prevailing wage states.
Well, and we saw the exact same thing come out of West Virginia from Governor Jim Justice. He said that, we repealed prevailing wage, we, implemented right to work, and the businesses told us they'd come, and then they never did. And now he hasn't reinstituted prevailing wage, right? But, there is a recognition of the fact that prevailing wage doesn't, it's not like a wasteful thing. It's something that's actually, in fact, obviously good for construction workers, but it's good for the city as well and the community.
And fun fact, the federal prevailing wage, the Davis-Bacon Act, was a Republican-led initiative because yeah, exactly. And the reason, go figure, was they were a couple of New England Congress people, and what was happening is Southern laborers were coming up into the Northeast, and the contractors were, paying them nothing. And they were taking all the work from local contractors because they were underpaying their workers. And so they said, hey, this is an unfair practice. We don't mind you guys coming up and bidding on work, but you got to pay your people appropriately if you're going to do it. And so, I mean, that's the origin of prevailing wage. So, if, it kind of strikes you that at one point Republicans found that kind of fairness important.
Right. That is really fascinating. So, it's really cool to see this kind of stuff happening in Michigan, and, look longingly at those achievements, as here in Alabama, prevailing wage is gone. Obviously, it's been gone. I think no, it was Republicans that removed it, but and we're a right to work state. Union density is pretty low, and obviously the animus and real bigotry towards unions and unionism is just apparent in this state. So it's nice to see some people seeing some success legislatively.
Yeah, it's been 10 years coming, and right to work was always an odd fit for Michigan. I mean, the birthplace of the UAW and the labor movement in general. Michigan's always been a labor state, and when they did right to work, at the 11th hour lame duck session in 2012, the public outcry and the protests were enormous. And I mean, they barred the Capitol; they weren't letting protesters in. Just all kinds of dirty tactics because they knew that what they were doing was unpopular, and so this has been a long time coming, and the response from the public has been, I'd say, pretty overwhelmingly positive here.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.